Hi there, this is the Feminist Corner. My name is Sofia Tafich, and judging by the podcast's name, I think you know we'll be talking about something related to feminism today. In this episode, I'm going to be reflecting on my experience with feminism, how it came to my life, what it means to me, and why I identify with it. This is all in hopes of sharing my relationship with the term and the reasons why I think it's needed. I want this podcast to be a contribution to the cause and to the feminist community for people who are interested in feminism or people who want to learn a little bit about it. I'm hoping to encourage discussion and give feminism a good name, as many people associate the word with something negative, something that it really isn't. I have always been a feminist. I know that because as I reflect on the ways I used to think when I was little, I recognize feminist values, but I didn't identify as a feminist until I was in high school. First, because I didn't know of the word before then, and second, because I saw how people treated the girls in my high school who did identify as feminists. I always heard people calling them names and dumb stereotypes such as man-haters, and they criticized them for standing up to their beliefs and speaking out, not just in women's rights matters, but every time they talked in class. This was something I couldn't quite understand because the boys in my high school who were outspoken just like them were admired and applauded and thought of as inspiring, while those girls were called bitches and accused of being too authoritative and thinking they were above everybody else. I remember being worried of what people might think of me and what they would say, and I remember how I always thought really well about what to say and how to act to avoid appearing feminist. And looking back, I think that's really sad. I lived in Mexico all my life, until recently because I'm doing my 4 years of college in Austin. But I think a lot of the hesitation I had in the past about identifying as a feminist comes from Mexican culture. It's funny because there's this popular Mexican saying that says, "Calladita te ves más bonita." Quiet, you look more pretty. I don't like this translation very much because it doesn't capture the fact that it is directed specifically to females. Mexico has always been really religious and conservative. This is very evident in the country's history and the existence of machismo, which is an attitude and a way of thinking that revolves around the notion that man, by nature, is superior to women. I'll try to put this word into perspective on what it means in Mexican culture. Machismo is at the center of female oppression throughout Mexican history. It was constant and horrendous, and today it's still not completely done with. It has always been part of Mexican culture in social, political, and economic grounds. I think a great way people can realize this is by noticing machismo is among the main motifs or themes of nearly, if not all, of the most popular Mexican and Latin American literature. Consider Octavio Paz, Mario Vargas Llosa, Isabel Allende, and Gabriel Garcia Marquez if you want to look into it. Bottom line, if you think that United States has work to do in terms of women's rights, which personally I do, Mexico is far more behind, which again saddens me because I love my country so much. So girls in Mexico or Latin America who are familiar with this stupid phrase, please hear this out. Calladita no te ves más bonita. Staying quiet does not make you look more pretty. You have the right to speak out and express your beliefs and stand up for yourself and feel beautiful while doing it. When I think of feminism, I think of a movement that strives to make the world a better place by advocating for gender equality. Feminism, by definition of the Oxford Dictionary, is the advocacy of women's rights on the ground of the equality of the sexes. To me, it's very simple. I know I believe that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities on all grounds, including social, political, and economic. And so, I am a feminist. I have heard a lot of people tell me that feminism isn't needed, and many also believe that feminists are just a bunch of women exaggerating and being dramatic. And when I hear this, I get frustrated. I just don't understand how people can roll their eyes and cringe at the idea of feminism when there are things happening all over the world that prove how this movement is needed. Let me give you a few examples. I don't know if you remember, but there was this worldwide protest the day after President Trump's inauguration at the beginning of this year, known as the Women's March. The protest advocated for human rights and other issues, including women's rights, due to some statements made by Trump and some of his beliefs. Most of the people in attendance wore pink as a sign of support for women. It was the largest single-day protest in U.S. history. There's the 2015 high-profile Stanford case with Brock Turner, who raped and assaulted an unconscious female student behind a dumpster. He was given a ridiculously short 6-month sentence, and it gets worse. He only served half of that sentence. This is just a fraction of the problem of sexual assault in college campuses and how they are mishandled by universities and the criminal justice system. Other high-profile cases include those of Yale, Harvard, Columbia, Vanderbilt, and Florida State. In October of this year, a few allegations of sexual misconduct against American film producer Harvey Weinstein suddenly became a number larger than 50. Just think about this. More than 50 women came forward with sexual misconduct allegations against him. It's now called the Weinstein effect, with its own Wikipedia page and everything, as the allegations against this very well-known celebrity inspired others to come forward. As of now, more than 34 well-known powerful men in entertainment, sports, fashion, journalism, politics, and other fields have been accused of sexual harassment. Of course, I'm not including the number of men accused who don't have a celebrity status. This, along with the hashtag #MeToo movement that launched and went viral just after the Weinstein scandal, showcases the serious problem of rape culture in our society. In my opinion, it's probably one of the most important reasons as to why we need feminism. Too many women have stayed silent, and when they do speak up, they are judged and bashed very harshly, and because of this, many don't ever speak up and don't get justice. And I think this is one of the most unfair things in the world. Apparently, Time magazine agrees. The Silence Breakers were just named Time's Person of the Year for 2017, a decision that couldn't be more perfect. The spread includes many women, both celebrities and not, and also includes a couple of men, including Terry Crews. He says, "Until men stand up and say, this harassment, this abuse, these assaults are wrong, nothing will change." Crews is 100% correct. No progress will ever be made if we are divided. Sexual harassment and assault has always been categorized as a woman's problem. It's always her fault. She asked for it. After Crews came forward, he was told that he should have beaten the guy up. And as said by Crews, no one questions the predator. We are supposed to disapprove of this disgusting and violent behavior, not talking about the things the victim should have done to prevent it. The victim should never be the one to blame. I also asked my roommate, Manuela Duran, who is also a feminist, what she thought about this ongoing scandal and talk about sexual abuse in the news. She said she's glad that this is happening. She says that it is only through public awareness that these intolerable issues can be penalized, and it is only through such collective penalization that a social change, one that is absolutely necessary, can eventually take place. I guess what I still ask myself is how people are capable of dehumanizing someone in this way. And I also ask myself how there are people who don't care that this keeps going on in sickening numbers. This is an important cause, and we need all the help we can get if we want change. If you identify with feminist values, don't be afraid to identify with the word. In concluding this podcast, I want to say how there is so much more to feminism than just my experience with the word. I can't possibly cover all of the reasons why we need feminism in a short 10-minute podcast. There are other very important factors that should be considered when talking about feminism and women's experiences, such as race, ethnicity, and class. For this, I highly recommend watching The Woman's List, a documentary film that can be found on Netflix. The documentary centers on a diverse group of 15 brilliant American women and uses their individual stories to illustrate the complexity of women and how they can thrive. The documentary itself explores many different themes that include self-doubt, career, discrimination, marriage, motherhood, and what it means to be a woman today. I also encourage you to check out Emma Watson's gender equality speech for the He for She campaign that explores men's role on the feminist movement. I need feminism because women have been encouraged to stay silent for too long. I believe men and women should have equal rights and opportunities on all grounds. What do you need feminism for? And with that, we conclude today's episode of the Feminist Corner. This is Sofia Tafich, and thank you so much for listening.